If you grew up constantly tracking other people's moods, you probably think that that is normal. You probably think it's empathy, but it's not. It's hypervigilance, and it is a survival strategy that you developed in order to stay safe in an environment that your body perceived as very threatening. And that is the reason why you don't know what you actually feel like. There's a difference between being empathetic and just straight up absorbing everyone else's emotions like a sponge. And most people have no idea that they're doing this. I had no idea I was doing this until much later in my life, after I went away to college. What people do know is that maybe they feel anxious all the time. They feel tired. They feel drained. They're foggy. And if you were raised around people who were emotionally chaotic, who were unpredictable, who were very dramatic, who were inconsistent, then you probably learned really young that you had to tune in and track them to stay safe. You were so sensitive to every movement, to their body language, to the speed at which they entered a room, to the rigidity in their body when they entered a room, to their facial structure, to the tension in their face, in their fascia, to the soft kind of open energy that they perhaps entered a room with, and the more cold, closed, hard, guarded energy that they sometimes entered a room with. Obviously, it's normal. We all encompass all of the emotions, and we, at different times, express differently, but at different times, we're obviously going to be expressing differently, and it's not bad to express this entire range of emotions, but it's when it's unpredictable and it is wrongfully placed upon the child to regulate the parent. This is often the case, and I don't think that parents are doing this consciously. It's not their intention, but it becomes the responsibility of the child to manage the emotional environment of the household. So we start to pick up on the most subtle. We feel their energy before they open their mouth, way before they open their mouth. In fact, it's the way they turn the door handle before they enter the room. It becomes automatic to pick up on these micro movements and these subtle shifts because it is a matter of survival. As a small child, you rely on your parents for everything. You want to keep them happy because you need them to survive. You need them to feed you. You need them to care for you. You need them to protect you. You need them to provide shelter and safety and nourishment and nurturing. Everything is provided by them. So it's in your best interest to keep them happy. Now, if they're very inconsistent and unpredictable, you have your work cut out for you and you become a shape-shifting magician. When you do that for years, you stop learning how to track yourself. In fact, if you were raised in this type of a family, you probably stopped learning how to track yourself when you were an infant. You probably just never even learned how. So you have constantly been externalizing your experience. You have become a mirror reflecting back to everyone else, but never witnessing your own reflection, never sitting with your own reflection, never becoming familiar with who you really are and how you really feel. You don't know what you feel like without other people around because it's other people's perception of you and experience of you. So you're constantly in reaction to other people's emotions. And then you think that whatever is constructed as a result of that is your personality. But it's not. It's a nervous system pattern. And it's how your body learned to stay alive in the middle of other people's instability. Eventually, though, this is what is going to cause so much distress and so much pain. It's what will make you sick, physically ill, because it creates identity that I'm sure many of you can relate to. You're the understanding one. You're the empathetic one. You're the sensitive one. You're the strong one that doesn't need any help from anybody. But inside, you don't really feel like any of those things. They feel fraudulent, not because you aren't understanding and you aren't sensitive and you aren't strong, but because those are all just aspects of personality that you had to develop and hyper focus on and really overdevelop in order to maintain the energetic balance in the family system that you were raised in. Because if you have one person or other people swinging way over here, you have to basically balance that and counteract that by showing up as whatever is the remedy to that. So if someone is extremely chaotic and reactive, you come in as like the calm, reasonable person who doesn't need anything and isn't going to stir the pot and isn't going to cause any issues. You're trying to bring this person who's way over here back into the middle. You're trying to like get the pendulum to swing back. So you would never show up with needs or wants or desires or anything that could cause more instability to that person. Like your body inherently knows that, and you're not going to create any type of situation where that is enhanced. But at some point you have to ask yourself, it probably won't happen until you're an adult and you've had plenty of time away from that environment. And by the way, if you never left home and are still very much enmeshed with these people and these energies, you may still not know what you feel like. Because it was not until I moved away to college that I realized I was not this personality that I had constructed and been operating as for my entire. I had no idea that there was a level of peace that could be felt and experienced just as a human. I literally didn't know. And I don't know how else to explain it. If you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. But it's like what I say with health a lot, that, following certain diets or lifestyles, I felt this level of clarity. I already thought I felt good before I made this change. Then I make this change and I'm like, wait, it unlocks something. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was available to human beings. Holy shit. And that's how this is. I didn't know. I thought I felt normal. I thought I knew what just baseline neutral was. What I thought was baseline neutral was extremely overstimulated, was sympathetic overdrive, was way beyond capacity, was like an extremely stressed nervous system in survival mode. And I thought that was just normal. And it wasn't until I got away from that and was just with myself that I realized, oh my gosh, I feel oddly safe and oddly at peace. And I also want to share that I had this experience again recently when I was visiting clients of mine and staying with them in Idaho. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, you saw, some of my adventures so far this summer. And staying with them, the way that they hosted me was so healing for me in a way that I didn't even know that I needed. It was something happened in me being there. Like, I am so used to unspoken expectations and to this energetic, like, grasping and clinging and this siphoning of my energy and constantly being almost just monitored in a way that I am on edge all the time. At least this is the way that I grew up, and for me, my experience in my family. I'm not saying anyone's doing this intentionally. By the way, I feel like I always have to say, I love my family. There's no resentment or anger. This is not things that people are doing intentionally, but this is just my experience and how I feel. And then how I notice how differently I feel when that energy is not present. When I was in Idaho at their house, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like, oh, there's literally nothing expected of me. And there's no judgments. And they just didn't even care what I was doing or how I spent my days. And if they saw me in the morning, it was just like, hey, they're just doing their own thing, worrying about themselves and letting me go about my business. And I am so conditioned to feel like I need to show up a certain way and need to perform for other people that I just was like, what? They're not and they don't have even questions for me. I'm not being interrogated about what's my plan for the day and where am I going to go and do I want to do this and should I do that? I am just to not be inundated with anything was so healing for me. I was like, oh my God, I want more of this. Like, I've been single and living on my own for so long that that's very peaceful for me and I love it. But I don't have very many experiences being with other people that feel like that. And this was one of them. And it was an opportunity for me it was proof that like it's possible to live with other people and to feel that peace. Hyper independence and being on my own is not the only way for me to be at peace. That this can actually happen with other people. It's just finding the right people. But at some point you have to ask yourself, who am I when I'm not absorbing other people? What do I actually feel like when I'm not trying to fix, when I'm not trying to manage, when I'm not having to monitor other people? And that is a really hard question if you've been emotionally entangled for your entire life. I know. And detangling, it can feel very selfish at first. It can flood us with so much self-consciousness and guilt and shame. It feels like we're being cold. It feels very unsafe to our bodies, but it is not. Pulling your energy back to yourself is actually a gift. It is self-respect. It's developing self-trust because your body was not meant to carry other people's emotions like that. It just wasn't. That is not a noble act. It's not your job to do that. And I promise it's not helping them anyway. So if you want to heal, you have to start with this. Not everything that you are feeling is yours. So start sorting that out. But I also want to talk about the fact that we do repel and attract your nervous system is constantly picking up on people's energy before your mind can make sense of any of it. Your biggest challenge, especially as a very empathetic person who has the history that we've been discussing, your job is to get out of the way and stop trying to override that feeling in the name of being liked and being accepted and being approved of. Because what your subconscious doesn't get is that it believes that you're going to die if you don't keep all these people happy and manage all of their emotions. What it doesn't realize is that you're going to die if you do that. You are actually killing yourself if you do those things. That is not a path of growth and vitality. That is a path to self-destruction and decay.
If you want to follow this thread a little bit deeper, check out this video next. And otherwise, I will see you guys very soon. Ciao!